You may have missed it during the Red Sox World Series win, the Patriots' perfect regular season, and the Celtics' triumph over the Lakers, but the New England Revolution, Boston's soccer team, is off to a great start of the season. While not traditionally one of the more popular sports in America, soccer is starting to gain some traction with the advent of Major League Soccer. The Revs have done their part to add to the growing craze in New England, with currently the best record in the MLS. Frank Delapa has covered the Revolution for ESPN, SoccerNet, and the Boston Globe. He says the organization has sought to establish a winning culture.
Yeah, I think what they did when Steve Nicol took over the team, he sort of, in 2002, set up, like you say, sort of a group there and a way of doing things. And they've kind of kept that together, so there's some stability.
Although perennially contending, the Revolution's success has come as somewhat as a surprise this season. Last year's leading scorer, Taylor Twellman, has been noticeably absent this season due to injury, playing only 45 minutes and netting just one goal in that time. Mike Burns is the director of soccer for the Revolution. Burns, along with the coaching staff, have constructed the team in a way that allows them to cope with an injury, even to arguably their best player.
The good side for us is that it's given an opportunity to some of our young players, like Kelly Dubé, Kenny Mansally, Adam Chrisman, have stepped in admirably and played well. And I think it's a plus for our entire team.
Frank Delapa also notes Twellman's absence has led to the rise of some of the younger players, including Kelly Dubé, a player who just barely even made the team.
He was basically a candidate for a developmental player slot, which is, they make a very small amount of money and maybe $14,000 a year. That's what they did with Andy Dorman. They came in sort of low-profile college guys is sort of what they are, who aren't projected to do much, and then they kind of take a chance on him. Here, he just emerged, and looks like he can absolutely do the job.
The Revolution seem to have changed their playing style this year, becoming a younger and faster squad, more apt to run at defenders and score goals. While this year's squad is arguably the most balanced in recent years, New England's seen the loss of some of their best players to foreign leagues. Still, this hasn't stopped the squad from achieving success. Delapa says even with the loss of key players, including former MLS Rookie of the Year Clint Dempsey, the squad has found ways to win.
Not just their leading scorer, but they lost 4 players from last year, plus 2 players from the year before, who were really some of the best players in the league. And one went to Scotland, Andy Dorman, a very good player, and Clint Dempsey was the biggest transfer in the history of the league. So Pat Noonan went to Norway. So you're not talking about just Taylor Twellman. These are guys that played on the national team. So how was it done? It's not really an addition by subtraction, but they brought in other players, and they're low-profile players from small, African countries and so the sort of places that nobody would ever found these kind of players. They've replaced them. So
Mike Burns explains his philosophy in building the current team. He says they've explored locally and internationally in search of the best available players, and not necessarily focusing on finding position players.
We try to select the best possible players available. There may be a situation or a time where we're really looking for a certain position, but more often than not, we try to get the best player available, and we feel like that player, if we put them in the right environment and right situation, will hopefully be successful here.
While the lack of big-name players may deter fair-weather fans, the Revolution has a core group of followers that seems to continually be growing. Since the MLS is only 13 years old, there are a good number of fans that have been with the team since the beginning. Monty Rodriguez is a lifelong soccer fan and began supporting the Revolution at the start of the MLS. He's also president of a group of the team's most loyal supporters called the Midnight Riders. He says that the losses of some of the more high-profile players doesn't bother him.
At the end of the day, as much as I would love to see them do it, they've got a point. They've been able to do it with low cap. They've been able to make it to the MLS Cup with $300,000-$400,000 under the cap the last couple of years, which is pretty impressive considering that's about 20% of your cap.
Tim Crawford has also followed the team since its birth, and he notes that while the Revolution haven't signed big-name players, their team-building policies have been sound.
Players for it, because I don't mind not having a guy who's making tons of money. I know that the ones that have been brought in are really good, but you look at the teams around them, too, and they're not usually very good. I think the Fire have done a decent job with theirs, but like the Galaxy usually have no defense these days because they've paid so much for their front-runner guys, Beckham and Donovan, that they just can't afford anybody else. And so I have no problem.
Crawford is part of a new wave of sports fan. His first introduction to soccer was through youth leagues and the World Cup hosted by the U.S. in 1994. Soon after, in 1996, the MLS was born, and kids who grew up playing the sport now had professionals to watch and look up to. With his new generation, he brings a knowledge of new technology that helps build the Revolution's fan base. He is co-administrator of the largest Facebook group dedicated to the Revolution and says that it's helped teams fans bond.
Yeah, we have a lot of kids that just, pretty much it gets them pretty popular after each game. Like a lot of kids just leaving their opinions and comments and stuff about what happened the night before and everything. And yeah, there's some, like, a lot of times for road games too, people will post like where there's going to be like a group watching at like some bar or pub or something like that, and or like, yeah, when there's a big game on the road, usually there's a lot of talk about that kind of thing, where people meet to watch them and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Sometimes kids ask them like if anyone has extra tickets and stuff. So it's useful, and yeah, we discuss a lot about random stuff.
While the innovation Facebook provides will help to build the team's support, there's no denying that there is an absolute passion that soccer fans have that you just don't see in other sports. Although American soccer fans also pay attention to other sports, some see soccer on a whole different level. Monty Rodriguez explains.
I keep hoping that this is our turn. I was actually talking to some friends and saying, how close Boston was to having 4 champions at the same time. I mean, the Revs being in the Cup last year, the Pats just barely losing, and then now this. So, I'd love to. I mean, this is my true passion. I love the Celtics. I love it. I'm a Patriots season ticket holder, but at the end of the day, this is the team that means the most to me.
Tim Crawford also adds that fans aren't simply cheering on the Revolution, they're supporting what the rest of the world calls the beautiful game and its survival in this country.
That's nice, because you got a little bit of an underground aspect of trying. I mean, not only are you rooting for the team, but you're like rooting for the sport too, and just trying to make it succeed. And you always want to tell your friends about it and try and get them interested and get more and more people. I mean, everybody likes all the other sports.
While it may be a little early to start talking about championships, the team's success so far already has hopes high. While Boston has seen its share of championships this decade, the Revolution have a unique opportunity to one day bring one home on a global level, something other sports cannot claim to do. Frank DeLappa explains.
The Revolution actually has a chance to win a world championship. Probably won't happen, but they're in a bracket where they're going to be playing the top teams in Mexico, and if they actually beat them, which I don't think will happen this year, this is down the line, but they're going to start playing them in competitions this year, and if they beat them, then they play the teams from South America, and if they beat them, then they'll end up playing some teams from Europe, and in a true World Club Championship, which is played in Japan in December.
As the Revs reach the midway point in the season, they have an opportunity to seize the athletic spotlight. With basketball season over, football season not yet started, and baseball not really getting interesting until September, the Revs could start to gain more attention in the New England area. They certainly have deserved it. For You're Here, I'm Dan Wyman, 88.9 FM.